Hello, BookTube. I've got some mail for you today. 2 packages, 1 manila envelope and 1 heavy box. I would fold them into a Bookish Day video, except that I heard from quite a few people via email. I leave my email on every video. Feel free to email me about anything that's pressing on your mind. I heard from quite a few people that they loved seeing the video, the Bookish Day video, but that they prefer multiple videos. I don't understand you people at all. So I have these packages that we'll go through, these 2 packages. But first, the cavalcade of animals continues. A week ago, I put out a call for all of you to send me pictures of your Shakespeare in preparation for ShakeTube 2020, a great, fun BookTube event that's coming up in September, in which me and a bunch of other BookTubers will be talking about Shakespeare until we're blue in the face all month long. We'll be talking about specific plays. If the technology gods are kind, we will have a live stream together at the end of the month about Hamlet. Just encouraging you to pull that Shakespeare down off your shelf and dig in and read. When I was mentioning that you could send me pictures of your Shakespeare, I mentioned you could send me pictures of your dogs as well, because I am endlessly interested in your dogs, and you have been coming through. There have been some backsliders. We'll get to some of them today, but you have been coming through, and I have noticed, in addition to dog pictures, I've been getting quite a few pictures of a very specific kind of dog. There are 2 miniature schnauzers with a giant collected Shakespeare. That is mother and daughter. Those 2 are mother and daughter. And here is the daughter all by herself with a couple of individual Shakespeares. Isn't that adorable? I couldn't get Frida to do that in a million years. Here's an old darling with the collected Shakespeare that I have that's visible in so many of my videos. Somebody just wants to sleep and not be bothered being a diva. I'm told by the sender that Murphy stands Frida. that we have an obsessive stalking fan here. Look at that pink kissable nose. Oh my. Here's another miniature schnauzer. Look at that face. These are making me very self-conscious, because these are what well-groomed miniature schnauzers look like, and mine is not well-groomed. And here is Lucy underneath a portrait of Lucy. Look at that. Isn't that something? Again, though, there were backsliders, and I suppose we should include them as well. This spawn of Satan is looking at Julius Caesar, and no doubt a little pensive because it couldn't get involved in the backstabbing, which is what cats love to do. And this, of course, is Gorin. And if you watch Sarah's channel, Steeped in Books, Steeped in Books is a great BookTube channel. Even if you're not, Sarah reads almost exclusively romance novels, and even if you aren't interested in romance, you should definitely watch her channel because it's so much fun. And she might convince you to try reading a romance. If you don't read romance, almost certainly the reason that you don't is simple snobbery. And in any other context but this, you would admit that snobbery is bad. So maybe you might, but anyway, any of you who've watched her channel will know she has what she refers to, and which may very well be the biggest black cat on BookTube. Gorin is huge. So the cavalcade of animals continues, and I don't know what took me so long to get to do this, because it's so much fun. But let's look at the mail and see what we can find here. We'll do the envelope first. I have my own miniature schnauzer, but she's pretty ratty looking compared to those well-groomed samples. Oh, fantastic. Okay, great. Great. This is from Harvard University Press, the great folks at Harvard University Press. This is a finished copy of Daniel Bloomstein's The Nature of Fear. Survival lessons from the wild. Look at that, will you? That is a king cobra. And I have faced those. I've been bitten by those. It's not a thing you want to have happen to you. They're big and aggressive and fast and territorial and all in that. I don't have a pub sheet for this. Daniel Bloomstein is a professor in the Department of Ecology and Evolutionary Biology and the Institute of the Environmental and Sustainability at the University of California, Los Angeles, where he co-directs the Evolutionary Medicine Program. He is an elected fellow of the Animal Behavior Society. And this book, I don't have a pub sheet, but you'll have to look at that nog the whole time. Fear, honed by millions of years of natural selection, kept our ancestors alive. Whether by slithering away, curling up in a ball, or standing still in the presence of a predator, humans and other animals have evolved complex behaviors in order to survive the hazards of the world presents. But despite our evolutionary endurance, we still have much to learn about how to manage and respond to danger. For more than 30 years, Daniel Bloomstein has been studying animals' fear responses. His observations led to a firm conclusion: fear preserves security, but at great cost. A foraging flock of birds expends valuable energy by quickly taking flight when a raptor appears, and though the birds might successfully escape, they leave their food source behind. Giant clams protect their valuable tissue by retracting their mantles and closing their shells when a shadow passes overhead, but then they aren't able to photosynthesize, losing the capacity to grow. Among humans, fear is often the understandable and justifiable response to sources of threat, but it can exact a high toll in health and productivity. I've actually noticed this with the sparrows that I feed and watch here at Hyde Cottage. Because that jacket copy is completely correct. They will be in the midst of a feast that I have provided. And the slightest hint of trouble causes them to flee en masse from a pile of food. And who knows if they come back. They flee completely. And it takes, that dust jacket copy is correct. It takes a huge amount of energy for a bird to take flight. It's that energy that they're replenishing when they eat. And when I've watched that, I've often thought, I know you've been evolving for hundreds of millions of years. That reflex has been evolving for hundreds of millions of years, and it probably saves your life because you don't delay. But when I watch them, I often think, well, if you did delay for even a second to actually look at the source of the disturbance that's causing you to take flight, you would see that it's not a danger to you. And I guess that's where you see the absolutely merciless numbers of evolution, is that your offspring, you will survive to have offspring, they will survive to have offspring, if you shave off that second, rather than be the one who dies, because you're giving it that second, because you're saying, instead of saying sound, go, you're saying sound, investigate. My birds don't do that, except for one in a blue moon. Once in a blue moon, there'll be a sparrow who will investigate, who will look, or who will sideline off just a bit, maybe under an eave or under a leaf of a plant or something, to take a look at what the disturbance is, rather than just bolt into the air and fly for the rest of the hour. I always wonder about those. I wonder, are they the forerunners of a better sparrow, or are they doomed? One way or another. This is going to be fascinating. It's a finished copy, so I'm assuming it's September. So it's really soon. I will get to it tonight. And then we have the box. Nice and neatly packed. Definitely not from one of you. This is definitely from a publisher. So here's hoping it's another finished copy. That would be great. Let's see here. Oh no, it's an advanced copy of something. It's an advanced copy of something, but it's huge. Why would it be? Oh my. Oh goodness. Okay, wow. It is an advanced copy, and it is huge. This comes out in mid-September. Goodness gracious. I didn't know this was going to be this big. This is To Sleep in a Sea of Stars by Christopher Paolini, the now bearded author, now obviously adult author of the Aragon series that he wrote when he was a teenager. Look at the size of this thing. It's enormous. Tor Books. I don't often get books from Tor. I'm very glad to have this one. Is beyond thrilled to be publishing best-selling author Christopher Paolini's adult novel debut. This is his very first book that is not marketed as YA. To Sleep in a Sea of Stars. Christopher first became a literary phenomenon at the age of 19 with the publication of Aragon and subsequent Inheritance Cycle novels, which have gone on to sell nearly 40 million copies worldwide, and really ought to have a new adaptation. No offense to Jeremy Irons, but the adaptation of Aragon was bad. Better to have a new one. Let's see here. Now he transitions from dragons to deep space with an epic space opera. Christopher's work has always been entrancing, but with To Sleep in a Sea of Stars, he's honed his craft to a fine art and melded it with years of research. The prose is sharp and gripping. The story takes familiar, beloved aspects of science fiction and makes them new. This is a story of humanity writ large across the cosmos. This epic novel follows Kira Navarez, who, during a routine survey mission on an uncolonized planet, finds an alien relic that thrusts her into the wonders and nightmares of first contact. Epic space battles for the fate of humanity take her to the farthest reaches of the galaxy and, in the process, transform not only her, but the entire course of history. Okay, well, those of you who are science fiction fans are going to be nodding up and down, maybe not with 100% kindness, because the idea, the cliche, someone stumbling across an unknown alien artifact that they have to run and that is going to cause the whole of the galaxy to change, is extremely familiar. That cliche is extremely familiar. It's at the back of some of the best science fiction novels ever written, like, for instance, Startide Rising by David Brin, and also some of the worst science fiction novels ever written. It's extremely familiar. But those of you who've been watching this channel for any length of time will know that I don't hold that against it at all. Everything is extremely familiar. It's going to be entirely a question of what kind of a job Christopher Paolini does. Now, that pub sheet says that his writing has always been entrancing. And I found a lot of the imaginative heavy lifting in the Inheritance cycle to be rather good. But good Lord, the writing. the actual prose was not entrancing. It was as turgid and heavy-handed and overwritten as you would expect someone in their early 20s to write. I'll be very interested in seeing if this is different in that regard. I don't really have much doubt that this author can dream up things and create interesting innovations on things, all that. I don't have really any doubt about that. I don't have any doubts, in other words, about the so-called bones of this author's creative ability, which is a nice feeling. I do have those doubts about lots of other people. I don't have any doubts about that when it comes to this author. It's more his prose. It's more the prose line that I'm interested in, and we shall see. This is mid-September, and it is mid-August, so I could theoretically read this now, and it's so big, I probably will. I don't think I can resist, especially since I absolutely, and it's an adult fiction debut. It'll be interesting to know what this author considers to be the qualifications for changing it. I'll be interested to know if this is, in fact, YA. This year alone has seen a couple of high-profile so-called adult fiction debuts from YA authors in which they weren't writing adult fiction at all. They were writing YA. They're just trying to market it different. They only know how to write one thing. I'll be interested to see if Christopher Paolini is the same way, or if this is really different. A little hint for YA authors. The fact that you have peppered every single line of dialogue with F-bombs does not automatically make your book adult instead of YA. If the fate of the universe still rests on which dreamy boy the main protagonist wants to take to the prom, you're still writing YA, regardless of how you are marketing it. I'll be interested to see, and I can get to this right away. Why not? So there you go. That was our book haul for today. We have two things of deep interest that I haven't read yet. We have Christopher Pollini, writing for adults, a big, fat space opera. Let's see if it's any good. Certainly it's beautiful. Beautifully produced. And The Nature of Fear, in which an experienced animal behaviorist looks at the evolution of fear and also what it costs. What fear is like in the animal world. It's pretty interesting. I know animal fear in my sparrows because I watch them all day long. And of course I know animal fear better than anyone alive when it comes to canines. I know exactly how canines express fear, in what grades and why and when they stop. But I'll be interested to see what the rest of this author has to say. So for 2 books, that's not a bad mail haul. So if I get more mail today, you'll be the first to know. But once again, my mail haul has significantly changed my TBR. That's okay. That's perfectly fine. So I'm going to wrap this up, but I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.